Support WrestleTalk!
Click the thumbs up.
Stipulations maketh the match. Well, at least they do in some cases. Just think of the last man standing match, the table match, the ladder match. The chairs match is admittedly a bit naff, but nowhere near as naff as WWE have managed over the years. Because, believe it or not, the company that gave us Santino Marella, Lord Tensai and Doink the Clown has had some pretty bizarre stipulations for some of its matches. Don't believe me? Well, how about a piñata on a pole? Kendo stick on a pole? Judy Bagwell on a pole? Basically stick on a pole on the end of any other word and it's been a WWE match. Santa Claus on a pole? Warsaw on a pole? Vole on a pole? Your dignity on a pole? But even those clearly made up ones aren't exactly as bizarre as the rest of the matches on this list. I am El Fakador Laurie Blake, and here are 7 of the weirdest stipulations in WWE history. A ladder match for the custody of Dominic. Back at SummerSlam 2005, WWE was gearing up for one of the most ridiculous matches in their ridiculous history. Leading into the biggest party of the summer, Rey Mysterio was feuding with the late great Eddie Guerrero over his own actual biological son, Dominic, with Eddie claiming to have secrets about Dominic that he would only reveal if Mysterio gave in to Guerrero's authority. Unlike Kurt Angle's actual biological son, Jason Jordan, Dominic was only a child at the time, and so the battling was left to his masked daddy Rey, and it was decided that the only way possible of sorting this issue out was to have a ladder match with legal papers suspended over the ring, which would give the winner of the match custody of Dominic, because even child services can't argue with a WWE official. At one point during the match, it looked as though Eddie was actually going to win after he hit the 3 amigos onto a ladder, but then Mrs. Excuse Me herself, Vicky Guerrero, put a stop to it by pushing the ladder over. I mean, she's got 2 kids already. Mysterio then ascended the ladder and all was well. He got to keep his son, who we're sure wasn't scarred for life by all of this. See that man there? He might be your daddy after this. A Crybaby Match. Our more observant viewers will notice that a lot of these matches come from the 90s or the early 2000s. And there's a pretty good reason for that. The WWF was mental. It doesn't come much more mental than the Crybaby match between Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid at In Your House 1996. The feud between the two men had gotten so out of hand that there was only one way of possibly settling it, which is of course to have a match where the winner got to put the other in an adult-sized nappy, or diaper if you're American, and also wrong. The match itself was basically completely normal with no incontinence-themed hijinks whatsoever. How very un-WWE, you might say. But the looming threat of the diaper was enough to make both men claw for the win. Razor Ramon eventually picked up the win, which meant the 1-2-3 Kid had to don the diaper, which must have been incredibly embarrassing, but also quite comfortable. He wasn't actually forced to cry while wearing it though, but given WWE's recent taste for bodily fluids, thank you Drake Maverick, you wouldn't exactly be surprised. Incredibly, and rather thankfully, this match has never made a comeback, and there's a good reason for that. It was stupid. Very, very stupid. The Bra and Panties Match. This is the first of 2 matches on this list that would not be all that welcome in modern WWE, and for very good reason. Not only is the stipulation just unbelievably sexist, it was downright uncomfortable to watch, especially as King was often on commentary foaming at the mouth, screaming, "Brown panties!" and losing his mind over the puppies, in a way that no one has done except those drunk people on BuzzFeed who just blimmin' love puppies. As I'm sure many of you will know, the premise of the match was that to win, you had to strip your opponent down to their underwear. Incredibly tasteful. Actual athletes forced to have a fight where you could only win by taking your opponent's clothes off. Brilliant. I mean, is it any wonder that WWE's female viewership has never been all that high? It's kind of incredible looking back from 2018 that anyone was ever actually convinced to do this kind of match, but given WWE's tendency to hire models rather than athletes in the early 2000s, perhaps it wasn't as tricky as you would want to hope. Thankfully, we have all moved way past that time, and now the women or the man are often the best thing to watch on WWE TV, and that's because they're actually treated like athletes and not playthings for Vince's, shall we say, less progressive tastes. Hair match. There have been plenty of these in the past, with arguably the two most famous coming in the early to mid 2000s. Pretty simple, really. The loser gets all of their hair shaved off by their opponent, which is no big deal if you ask me. Two of the men to suffer this fate are actually rather prominent in WWE, currently going under the names of Kurt Angle and Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Angles was the first Barnet to be banished after he lost against Edge at Judgment Day 2002. It's a look he's actually kind of adopted ever since, whereas his victorious opponent Edge still sports his long, beautiful, flowing locks and is clearly compensating for something. I'm not bitter. While Vince's hair was on the line during the bizarre in itself Battle of the Billionaires storyline heading into WrestleMania 23. Vince and some weird dude called Donald were feuding because they were rich, and that's about it. For the match itself, both men got to choose their champion to fight for their honor and also for their hair. Vince chose Umaga and Don chose Bobby Lashley. In the end, Lashley won the match, which also saw Trump get to flatten Vince with a stinging fist, which allowed Trump to keep his beautiful golden hair. I think it was hair. Does he wear a hairpiece, or does it all come up from the back? I'm not sure. So Vince had the punishment of being shaved, and funnily enough, it all grew back. What a brilliant punishment. If they were going for a terrifying bald look, however, you'll never come as close to matching Minoru Suzuki at Wrestle Kingdom 12 after he lost his own hair match, because that is scary. The Kiss Me Arse match. This is by far the most recent match on this list. It's also arguably the least hygienic, so it's a potential future match for Dean Ambrose then. Following his return at WrestleMania 31, Celtic Warrior Sheamus had been playing the role of bully, with his favourite victim coming in the form of Dolph Ziggler. Sheamus had been attacking people from behind and then proclaiming that he was the only man in all of WWE. I don't know, maybe it's an Irish thing. It was a claim that Dolph had an issue with for several reasons. Because Sheamus was a bully, his goal was to make Dolph look as pathetic as possible, and so the Kiss Me Arse match was arranged for Extreme Rules 2015. Much like in TLC matches, the person who sets up the spot fell victim to it, and in this case, it was Sheamus who introduced the arse that lost the match. But he's not called a warrior for no reason, as instead of kissing Dolph's cheeks, Sheamus beat down on Ziggler before rubbing Dolph's face all over his own pasty bottom. Muscly, sweaty, and got a lot of hair, Dolph Ziggler is one of WWE's finest workers, but this clearly was not his finest moment. The Gravy Bowl match. This is another match that Vince McMahon probably can't believe he managed to get away with, because the thing that you're imagining when you hear Gravy Bowl match is what happened. It featured two of WWE's finest female talents in the early 2000s, Trish Stratus and Stacy Keibler, who were forced to have a match in a giant bowl of gravy. And the excuse for holding the match in the first place was, of course, that it was Thanksgiving, and everybody knows that the long-standing Thanksgiving tradition of getting two women to frolic in gravy. You can almost hear Jerry Lawler squealing with delight somewhere. Weirdly though, it started innocently enough, with the ladies fighting over a dinner table full of Thanksgiving food, but it wasn't long before things were getting really rather saucy. It turned into an epic encounter which involved Trish being dunked in the gravy several times before she managed to actually get the better of her opponent. What makes this even more ridiculous is that this was a title match. The WWE Women's title was defended in a bowl of gravy. Fast forward 17 years and we're talking about Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch headlining WrestleMania. Progress is really good. Good. The Gulf of Mexico match. Let's head on back to 2008, a time when a man called CM Punk was starting to make things happen in WWE and the never forgotten ECW. Feuding in ECW with Chavo Guerrero, the two men decided that the best way to settle their differences was to have a no disqualification match, which is pretty simple stuff really, because ECW and no DQ go hand in hand. They're like salt and pepper. But wait! This was not an ordinary no DQ match. No. This match had an added stipulation that makes it one of the most ridiculous in history. To win, you would have to throw your opponent into the Gulf of Mexico, presumably so they could be taken by Poseidon and become his undead soggy brides or whatever. Nowadays, of course, they'd actually be reincarnated as a woken warrior. No Way Out in 2008 was decided as the venue for the match, and although it had to end in the sea, it started in the ring, which meant that they somehow had to fight while walking out of the arena and to the closest bit of coast they could find, probably on public transport. Why didn't they just go separately? I'll never know. Just meet you at the ocean. First one to go in loses, that kind of thing. Punk, because saltwater isn't straight edge, won the match by lobbing Chavo into the ocean, never to be seen again. Goodbye, you can't swim. Well, he's gone for a week. It was basically a get in the sea match before the get in the sea meme even existed. It's TLC tonight. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Hooray! We've seen that winningest combination quite a few times over the years, but what were the very best examples of the TLC match? Well, thankfully for you, I've made a video which can tell you all about it, and you can watch it by clicking the link on screen now. And also, why don't you give us a subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest wrestling news? I've been El Fakador, and that was Lucha.